The square was built for celebration, not death. Wide white stones stretched beneath a pale alien sky, surrounded by banners of the Galactic Empire. They fluttered slowly, calm and proud, as if the world itself had already accepted defeat. Imperial soldiers stood in perfect lines, armor polished, weapons lowered but ready. Lens hovered above, their lenses glowing as they recorded everything. At the center of the square stood a single human child. The child was small, thin from weeks of ration cuts. Dust clung to their boots. Their hands were tied, but they did not cry. Their eyes moved slowly, taking in the crowd of humans forced to watch. Mothers held their mouths. Fathers clenched their fists. No one stepped forward. They had learned what happened when they did. The Imperial governor watched from a raised platform, tall, scaled, and wrapped in ceremonial armor. He felt no emotion. To him, this was a lesson, nothing more. Humans had resisted longer than expected. This would end it. "Observe," the governor said, his voice amplified across the square. "This is the cost of defiance." He did not name the child. Names created sympathy. The Empire had learned that long ago. Executioner raised his weapon. It hummed softly, a clean energy blade meant to be quick, efficient, merciful, by Imperial standards. The child looked up at the sky. No one knew what they were thinking in that final moment. Some later said the child was afraid. Others said they were brave. The truth was simpler. The child was human. The blade fell. The sound was short, sharp, final for one heartbeat. The square held its breath. Then something unexpected happened. The humans did not scream. No wave of panic spread through the crowd. No one rushed forward. No one collapsed. There was only silence. Not the empty kind, but a heavy one, thick and pressing, like the pause before a storm. Imperial sensors registered it immediately. Heart rates spiked for less than a second, then dropped. Breathing slowed, adrenaline rose, then settled into something colder, steadier. The governor frowned. This was not how conquered species reacted. Fear should have broken them. Rage should have scattered them. Instead, the humans stood still, faces blank, eyes focused. Many looked not at the body, but at the soldiers, at the drones, at the sky, the stars beyond it. The governor dismissed the discomfort. Silence meant submission. That was the Empire's belief. "Let this be recorded," he said. "Let all human worlds see the result of resistance." The drones pulled higher, transmitting the image across the system. At that exact moment, across human space, something else happened. On ships hidden in asteroid fields, human officers looked up from their consoles. On stations buried beneath moons, lights shifted from white to red. On old Earth, in cities scarred by earlier wars, screens went dark for 1 second. Then they came back on. Human networks did not collapse. They closed. Imperial analysts noticed the data drop and tagged it as emotional shock. They marked it low risk. They were wrong.
Back in the square.
The soldiers moved to disperse the crowd. That was when they noticed it. Humans were leaving in perfect order. No pushing, no shouting. Families stayed together. Strangers guided each other through the exits with light touches and quiet words. A human officer, wearing no insignia, walked past an Imperial patrol. His face showed grief, but his eyes were sharp, focused. He touched a small device on his wrist. "Recall confirmed," he said quietly. The words meant nothing to the Empire. To humanity, they meant everything. That night, the governor celebrated. Reports showed no riots, no uprisings. Human factories slowed. Transmissions were minimal. To the Empire, it looked like surrender. But in the dark spaces between stars, human ships moved. They did not move in fleets. They moved alone, or in pairs, following paths mapped long ago. Routes built not for speed, but for invisibility. Old protocols activated. Ones the Empire had never bothered to study, because humans were never expected to use them. In a hidden command center, deep beneath a dead planet's surface, human leaders gathered. There was no shouting, no speeches. The room was quiet, filled with soft light and distant stars on the walls. At the center of the table was a single image. The child, frozen at the moment before death. No one spoke for a long time. Then a woman broke the silence. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled. "They crossed the line," she said. Everyone in the room nodded. Humans had lost cities before, worlds, billions of lives across their long history. They had endured plagues, wars, and extinction-level events. They understood loss better than most species understood peace. What the Empire failed to understand was this: humans did not forget. The death of one child did not weaken them. It focused them. Orders moved through sealed channels. Old alliances were reactivated. Weapons long buried under treaties were unlocked. Not out of rage, but out of certainty. The Empire believed humans fought for survival. That was only half the truth. Humans also fought for memory. On the governor's flagship, an analyst hesitated over a report. Supply routes showed minor delays. Patrols missed check-ins by seconds, then minutes. It was nothing serious. It's probably technical errors. Still, the analyst felt a strange chill. Log it, the governor said when informed. Humans are grieving. It will comply. The analyst obeyed. Far away, a lone Imperial scout drifted through what was marked as empty space. Its sensors flickered. For a brief moment, it detected something impossible. A human ship, powered down, invisible against the void. The signal vanished.
Ow.
No distress call was sent. By the time the Empire noticed the pattern, it would already be too late. Because the death in the square was never meant to start a rebellion. It started a countdown. And the stars, silent witnesses to countless wars, seemed to wait. The Galactic Empire waited for chaos that never came. Weeks passed after the execution, and human worlds remained quiet. No mass protests. No open rebellion. Trade convoys continued to arrive on schedule. Factories met quotas. Even human media stayed silent, filled with harmless entertainment and old cultural programs. To the Empire, it looked like acceptance. The governor sent a report to the Galactic Council stating that the humans had finally broken. The council agreed. It had ruled thousands of species before. Every conquered race followed the same pattern. First fear, then anger, then collapse. Humans, it seemed, were no different, just slower to fall. What the Empire did not see was what happened beneath the surface. On a mining moon near the edge of human space, workers gathered for a routine shift change. They moved casually, talking about weather systems and broken equipment. When the last Imperial observer left the platform, the conversation stopped. A hatch opened beneath the rock. Below the moon's crust, hidden for decades, an old human command bunker came alive. Dust-covered screens lit up. Systems that had not been powered since humanity's early expansion began to hum. Names long erased from official records appeared on displays. Black Fleet Protocol. Active. Not many, just enough. Humanity did not bring back its largest fleets. It brought back its smartest ones. The first Imperial supply ship vanished 3 days later. It was a routine transport carrying fuel cells and food rations to an outer garrison. When it failed to arrive, Imperial Command assumed a navigation error. Space was vast. Mistakes happened. Then a second ship disappeared. Then a third. Each loss happened in a different sector. No debris. No battle signals. The ships were simply gone. Imperial analysts began to argue. Some suggested pirates. Others blamed mechanical failure. A few mentioned humans. Those voices were ignored. Humans do not have the courage, one senior officer said. They do not have the numbers. The officer had never studied human history closely. On a drifting station hidden inside the shadow of a gas giant, a human commander watched a holographic map shift. Small Imperial icons blinked out one by one. He did not smile. Next phase, he said. Human attacks were not loud. They did not announce themselves. They did not target civilians or cities. They targeted systems the Empire barely noticed. Communication relays, data hubs, navigation beacons. One relay failure caused a fleet to jump 5 seconds late. That delay sent it into the gravity well of a dying star. The Empire called it an accident. Humans called it math. Imperial patrols were doubled. Sensors were recalibrated. More drones filled the skies of human worlds. Still, nothing happened. No human ships were seen. No weapons fired. The silence continued. It began to unnerve the lower ranks. A young Imperial lieutenant stood on a watch platform above a human city. From orbit, The city looked calm. Lights glowed softly. Traffic moved in neat patterns. "To neat? Why are they still building?" he asked his superior. "If they are defeated, why expand?" The superior dismissed him. "Because they obey. Do not mistake order for danger." The lieutenant nodded, but unease settled in his chest. On the surface, human children still went to learning centers. Families still gathered at night. Life appeared normal, but something was missing. Stories. Human cultures were built on stories. Songs, arguments, loud emotions. Now, their networks carried none of it. No debates, no anger, no grief. It was as if humanity had decided together to stop speaking. Inside a classified Imperial research station, a captured human engineer sat across from an interrogator. The interrogator activated pain stimulators and psychological pressure fields. The human did not scream. "You are losing," the interrogator said. "Your people have surrendered." The human looked up slowly. "No," he said. "We are remembering." The interrogator ended the session early, disturbed by the calm certainty in the human's voice. The Galactic Council began to notice economic disruptions. Trade lanes grew unreliable. Member species complained. Resources failed to arrive. Confidence in Imperial protection weakened. Still, the Council refused to acknowledge a threat. Then an entire Imperial patrol fleet vanished. Not a supply ship. Not a relay. 12 warships, armed and shielded, disappeared while responding to a distress signal near an uninhabited system. The signal itself vanished seconds after the fleet jumped in. No wreckage was found. For the first time in centuries, the council chamber fell silent. Emergency meetings were called. Analysts spoke of new weapons, unknown technologies, hidden allies. One brave voice finally said the word everyone avoided: humans. The governor protested. "Impossible. They are unorganized. Emotional. They lack unity." A senior analyst stepped forward and displayed a timeline. Every disappearance, every failure, every delay. All events began after the execution, the analyst said. To the second, that was when fear entered the room. The Empire had believed killing the child would end resistance. Instead, it had synchronized it. Human commanders did not celebrate their successes. Each loss inflicted was recorded, studied, and adjusted. They expected casualties. They planned for sacrifice. They did not aim to win quickly. They aimed to make the Empire bleed slowly. In a deep space listening post, an Imperial technician detected a signal. Old, human. It carried no encryption and no threat. It was a single sentence, repeated on a loop. "You were warned." The technician froze. Before the signal could be traced, the listening post lost power. Emergency lights flickered, then went dark. Back on the conquered colony, the square was cleaned. The blood was gone. The banner still waved. The Empire believed the moment had passed. But at night, humans gathered near the square. They did not speak. They placed small lights on the stone where the child had fallen. Thousands of lights. From orbit, it looked like a constellation. Far away, as human fleets adjusted their course, one truth became clear. The Empire had mistaken silence for weakness. What it was actually hearing was the sound of humanity preparing to strike. The Galactic Empire no longer spoke of accidents. Emergency lights burned constantly inside the council chamber. Star maps flickered with warning symbols. Entire regions of Imperial space showed gaps where fleets should have been. Trade routes twisted into chaos as ships rerouted again and again, chasing safety that no longer existed. For the first time in its long history, the Empire felt uncertainty. Orders were sent out in waves. Patrols were recalled. Defense fleets were pulled inward to protect core worlds. Borders that had stood untouched for centuries were suddenly thin. Still, the humans did not appear. Imperial commanders searched for fleets, for armadas, for something they could fight. There was nothing. No grand battles. No heroic charges. Only loss after loss, quiet and precise. A warship vanished while docked at a fortified station. Its crew was found alive days later, drifting in escape pods unharmed, but shaken. Every system on the ship had been wiped clean, not destroyed but erased. Navigation data, command codes, even personal logs. One survivor whispered the same words again and again. They were already there. The Empire tightened its grip on human worlds. Curfews were enforced, surveillance increased. Soldiers filled the streets. Drones hovered closer, watching every movement. The humans complied. They always complied. But compliance was not obedience. In a crowded transport hub, an Imperial officer collapsed without warning. His armor sealed shut. His life signs vanished. No weapon had touched him. Later analysis showed his suit software had received a routine update hours earlier. Human code. In another system, a planetary shield activated at the wrong moment, trapping an Imperial fleet inside a gravity well during a stellar flare. 7 ships were lost. The planetary governor claimed system error. Human engineers had written that system centuries ago. The Empire began arresting human technicians, scientists, and officers. Interrogations grew harsher, more brutal. It did not help. Humans endured pain in silence. Some died without speaking. Others spoke freely, calmly, explaining their actions as if discussing weather patterns.
Oh.
"You taught us this," one captive said to his interrogator. "You taught us how empires fall." The interrogator struck him. The human smiled through broken teeth. "You should never have made us watch." That phrase began appearing everywhere. Painted on walls, etched into metal. Transmitted briefly across unsecured channels before vanishing. "You should never have made us watch." Imperial morale began to fracture. Soldiers whispered in barracks. Crews hesitated before jumping into dark systems. Officers double-checked orders, then checked them again. The Empire ran on certainty, and certainty was bleeding away. Then the humans changed tactics. An Imperial frontier world woke to find its orbital defenses offline. Our alarms had sounded, no battles fought. Human ships appeared in orbit, not attacking, but broadcasting. The footage played on every screen. The execution unedited, clear, slow. The child, the blade, the silence. The broadcast ended with a single line of text. "This is what they do to the small." The human ships withdrew without firing a shot. Within hours, that world rebelled. Other species began to question the Empire openly. Some refused quotas. Others delayed troop deployments. Old rivalries flared. Trust collapsed. The Empire tried to respond with force. It sent one of its ancient core fleets into human space, a formation so powerful it had ended wars by its presence alone. Hundreds of warships moved as one, shields layered, weapons primed. Human scouts detected the fleet long before it arrived. Human commanders allowed it to proceed. At a narrow corridor between 2 collapsed stars, the fleet entered what Imperial charts labeled a stable passage. It was not. Human saboteurs had spent years altering mass readings, adjusting gravity markers by fractions, tiny changes. It's invisible to rushed analysis. When the Imperial fleet jumped, space folded wrong. Not enough to destroy them instantly, enough to scatter them. Ships emerged, light years apart, alone, disoriented, cut off. Human ships appeared then, not many, just enough. Life struck fast, targeting engines, life support command decks. Some Imperial captains chose to fight, others surrendered. Many self-destructed rather than be captured. Humans recorded everything. From the wreckage of that fleet, the Empire finally learned the truth. Humanity was not fighting to survive. It was fighting to teach a lesson. Back in the council chamber, panic replaced pride. Voices rose. Accusations flew. Species that once stood united now blamed each other. The word extermination was spoken aloud. A final solution. Plans were drawn to wipe out human worlds in one decisive strike. Before the order could be finalized, every screen in the chamber went black. Then one image appeared. A human child, not the one who had been killed. Another, standing in a classroom, laughing. Alive. A human voice spoke calm and steady. "We know what you were planning," it said. "We planned for it first." The image changed. Imperial core worlds, power grids, orbital defenses, all highlighted in red. "You've built an empire on fear," the voice continued. "We've built ourselves on endurance." Silence filled the chamber. "You killed one child to make us submit," the voice said. "Now every species is watching." The transmission ended. Moments later, reports flooded in, systems failing, fleets refusing orders, allied species declaring neutrality or open rebellion. The Empire had not been attacked everywhere, just enough. In human space, commanders watched the galaxy shift. They knew the cost would be high. Humans would die. Worlds would burn. But humanity had already paid the price that mattered most. They had buried a child, and the galaxy was finally beginning to understand what that meant. The Galactic Empire fractured quietly at first. Orders left the council chamber and never reached their destination. Fleets hesitated at jump points, waiting for confirmations that never came. Governors locked themselves inside fortified palaces while crowds gathered outside, not shouting but watching. Watching had become dangerous. On dozens of worlds, non-human species replayed the execution again and again. They studied the child's stillness, the silence of the humans, the calm that followed. Many realized the Empire had not crushed humanity's spirit. It had sharpened it. Human fleets did not surge forward to conquer. They held their positions. They allowed the galaxy to breathe, to think. They understood something the Empire never had. Fear spreads faster when you give it time. On a core Imperial world, a governor attempted to enforce loyalty by force. Soldiers fired into a crowd. The crowd did not run. They stepped aside, allowing human broadcasters to project images across the skyline. It's not weapons, names, thousands of names, children, families, entire worlds lost under Imperial rule. The governor ordered the broadcast destroyed. His own soldiers refused. Across the Empire, the same moment repeated itself. Troops laid down arms, crews mutinied, entire fleets powered down rather than fire on civilians who now knew the truth. The Empire tried to regain control through terror. Humanity finally moved openly. Ships emerged from hiding, not in overwhelming numbers, but in precise formations. They did not attack population centers. They targeted prisons, labor camps, and data vaults. They freed the forgotten. They released records the Empire had buried for centuries. The galaxy learned what the Empire had always been. On the conquered human colony, the square filled again. Imperial banners had been torn down. In their place stood no flags at all. Humans gathered quietly, joined by other species. No one spoke. A human elder stepped forward. His voice carried without amplification. "This is where it began," he said. "This is where they thought fear would end us." He placed a small light on the stone. Aliens placed lights too. Above the square, human ships hovered, defensive but silent. Far away, the Galactic Council met one last time. Its chamber was half empty. Some seats were abandoned. Others were occupied by representatives who no longer believed. An emergency transmission cut through the chaos. The same calm voice as before. "We are not here to destroy the galaxy," it said. "We're here to change it." Images followed. Imperial weapons deactivated remotely. Prison gates opening. Supply convoys rerouted to starving worlds. "You ruled through fear," the voice continued. "We respond with memory." The final image appeared. Then the names of every species harmed by the Empire began to scroll. The Council demanded surrender terms. Humanity did not answer immediately. Human commanders gathered in a quiet room. Some were soldiers. Some were engineers. Some were parents. They spoke of loss, of cost, of the future. Finally, a response was sent. The Empire would stand trial, not in a human court, not in an imperial one. A galactic assembly would be formed. Every species would speak. Every crime would be recorded. No executions.
Oh no.
Only truth. The Council rejected it. They ordered one last strike, a hidden Imperial doomsday weapon activated in the dark between stars, aimed at Earth. Human intelligence had found it months earlier, not through spies, but through old Imperial pride. The Empire had documented its own ultimate weapon, confident no one would ever read the archives closely enough. The weapon shut down. Its crew woke to find themselves surrounded, unharmed, their systems locked. The final illusion of Imperial control collapsed. Within weeks, the Galactic Empire ceased to exist as a single power. It broke into smaller states, some peaceful, some hostile, all cautious. Humanity did not take the throne. It stepped away from it. Years later, historians would argue over the moment the Empire truly fell. Some would point to lost fleets, others to rebel worlds. Most would agree it began in a quiet square with a small body and a silence no one understood. On Earth, a memorial was built, simple stone. No symbols, no flags. Only one line was carved into it. Children visited it on school days. Their species came too. They asked why humans had not chosen revenge when they had the power to take it. The answer was always the same. Because strength is knowing when to stop. The galaxy learned a new rule that day, one written not in law, but in memory. Never mistake human silence for weakness. And never forget the cost of killing what they love.